The Volkswagen Tiguan has a turbocharged engine and standard 4-motion all-wheel drive, so you can find somewhere to relax in a hurry. Finance the Tiguan from just 0.99% for 60 months during the Volks Summer event. Visit your VW dealer before July 31st.
Volkswagen.
This is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
I've got another confession to make. Choosing a song that truly defines the Foo Fighters in the 2000s is somewhat of a Herculean task. Dave Grohl and his merry band of rock stars have been putting out such consistently solid rock and roll since the mid-90s, one might be forgiven for having a hard time choosing just one. After all, in the 2000s alone, there's the last hurrah of the 90s with the anthemic and sentimental Learn to Fly. In 2002, 2003, there's a dose of heavy and the heartfelt with the back-to-back smash hits All My Life and Times Like These. And in the closing years of the aughts, we were blessed with the frantic sounds of 07's The Pretender and the smooth ride of 2009's Wheels. I'll forgive you if you want to take a brief pause to walk down memory lane and put on some Foo Fighters Artist Radio right now. But perhaps the track that really gets the blood pumping and the devil horns raised to the sky is 2005's aptly named Best of You. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Foo Fighters' Best of You. Despite its eventual critical and commercial success, Foo Fighters were very disappointed in the way their 2002 album One by One came together. Dave Grohl, Taylor Hawkins, Nate Mendel, and Chris Shiflett have all come out and criticized pretty much every element of the writing, recording, and production process over the years, from feeling an overall lack of inspiration to a disjointed Pro Tools-reliant recording process to a lifeless and bloated nearly final record that they ended up being so apprehensive about, they refused to release it until they could all come back with cooler heads to write new songs and try again. The band was not in a good place, and it was becoming nasty. Dynamics in the band became so toxic during this period that by the time Coachella 2002 rolled around, yes, they were doing Coachella back then too, Dave Grohl has gone on record to say that he thought that it was highly likely that that appearance would be the final Foo Fighters performance ever. The magic of the desert heat must have been good for the soul, however, as the band thoroughly enjoyed their performance together and decided to return to the studio after all for one more kick at the can. Through hard work, compromise, and reworking and shaking up the production staff, One by One finally came together as the band had hoped, and at the very least, they'd found a massive comeback single in the uber-aggressive All My Life, with Grohl saying years later, "We'd already spent 3 months and $1 million on something that we threw away. The difference between the original All My Life and the album version of All My Life was that this one cost $1 million and sounded like crap, while this one we did in my basement for half an hour and became the biggest f***ing song the band ever had." Grammy Awards and Platinum Records would quickly follow, and although they still weren't overjoyed with the final product, the Foo Fighters were back on track. Here's Chris from the band giving clarity on the situation.
Because, it's pretty well known or whatever that we made a whole album that we shelved and then went back and after a few months of break and made the album that ultimately became One by One, and we made it really fast. And the first album, the making of that first record, was a pretty miserable experience, I thought. Like, it wasn't enjoyable to make that record. And then when we went back and redid it, that wasn't miserable at all. That was fun. It was great, but it was really kind of disconnected. Like, we all recorded basically separately, So this one was different, that we were all here a lot of the time, and probably most of the time making the record. So it was completely different approach to making a record.
Now in 2005, the Foo Fighters were determined not to make the same mistakes again. Grohl told Rolling Stone, "I was kind of pissed at myself for the last record. 4 of the songs were good, and the other 7 I never played again in my life. We rushed into it, and we rushed out of it." For what it's worth, that is mostly true. A quick scroll of setlist.fm points to the fact that while All My Life and Times Like These are still in heavy rotation on the Foo setlist today, the rest of the songs from One by One quickly evaporated and haven't been played in over a decade. Now set up in their own personal, if not completely finished, recording studio in California, dubbed 606 Studio West, Foo Fighters were ready to shake things up by turning challenges into opportunities. If the band was having issues making a single album in the years previous, why not subvert all expectations and make a double album? Originally intending on scoring music for film or releasing some acoustic songs either by himself or with the Foos, Dave Grohl told Spin his motto at the time was, "Who's to say what we should sound like?" By the time an album's worth of softer music was made, however, Grohl told Billboard, "I realized I couldn't live without rock and roll," and began to embark on some more traditional, headbanging Foo Fighters material as well.
Well, it might be obnoxious how in love with the album we are. And because I'm starting to realize that all we do is talk about how proud we are. But I mean, if you think about it, I mean, it's tough. When you have a kid, even if your kid is butt ugly, you're still going to love the child to death. Like, there's no question. But when you've done something like build this crazy place from the ground up with you and your friends from scratch, just decide it's time to make the headquarters, it's time to sort of plant the roots and build the nicest studio in the San Fernando Valley, and then make a double album and write the most beautiful songs you've ever written and the most anthemic rock stuff you've ever done, it's hard to not be really, really excited about it. And, I mean, every album we make we're proud of, but there's always a little bit of nervousness, thinking like, okay, God, it comes out in a month. God, I wonder what people are going to think of it. But this one, it's really more of this personal achievement where it's like, man, I can't wait for people to hear this, because this is what I've wanted to do for a long time, and this is what I know. I've always known we were capable of doing something like the acoustic record, and I've always known we were capable of making the rock stuff like even bigger.
Well, because you've had moments of that on every record, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of something we've been building up to almost in a way.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think we could have done it before this either.
I don't think it would have been right. You know, and
Proud of their output and not wanting one side of the band to outshine the other, the double album In Your Honor was officially born. 10 songs on the record were soft and introspective, featuring the likes of Norah Jones and John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, and 10 more songs were hard-rocking anthems with more general themes, as Dave put it. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, not exactly. Double records have a bit of a stigma in rock music, usually seen as an output of inflated, pretentious passion projects that fans quickly prune down to a less bloated collection or skip completely. As the guys told Much More Music, the band was aware of this and looked to buck the trend.
That was one of the things when I remember when Dave first brought up at rehearsal that he wanted to make a double record, that he was like, you know, I want to make a double record, and, you know, therefore there can't be any filler on it whatsoever. So I think that was definitely on the band's mind, you know, putting together the final product to just try not to have any crap songs on it. Hopefully.
Unlike those other bands.
Right.
Which were just like,
hey, we're not going to name names.
This is great. And we just write the same amount of songs, and then we come up with all this other stuff and call it a double record.
Well, you look at a band like, say, The Clash.
Because that's kind of saying, that's sort of saying, like, well, we thought we'd do it this way, therefore the other bands.
And Sandinista
was like
idea.
Right. Well, it
Sandinista
seems like I think a lot of bands can't self-edit. Like some people, so a lot of bands sort of suffer from that thing of like, we have to release everything we put out or everything we record. You know, what I mean, if you look at like Sandinista, and don't get me wrong, dude, The Clash is like my favorite band of all time. But there's they made London Calling, which is an amazing double record. You can listen to it start to back, and it's great all the way through. But then they went and made Sandinista, which is like 3 albums, and it should have been half
Half of one album.
Yeah, in my opinion.
All in all, 40 tracks were recorded for In Your Honor, with Studio 606 West literally being built up around them. The band even helped out with some of the finishing touches of the construction of the place, donning their hard hats between sessions to stuff some insulation into the walls or hammer down some boards. You know, construction stuff. The acoustic record, which we won't go into too much detail on this episode, was pared down from 15 to 10 songs in about 2 weeks, as Grohl had already had much of the record planned out. Standout song Friend of a Friend, for example, was written by Grohl about his former Nirvana bandmate, the late great Kurt Cobain, as far back as 1990. The heavy record was a bit more of a chore, with 8 of the 10 songs being last-minute additions to their source material. The band had gone on record to say that they worked tirelessly on refining the heavy side, working from noon to 8 in the morning in the final months of recording sessions, calling it the most devastating thing we've ever done at the time. Speaking with Guitar World, Grohl recalls putting his foot down. Everyone has to be here all day. We need to do one song a day and no one's leaving until that song is done. The band was nearing their deadline to the label and refused to turn anything in less than perfection. They knew what had happened with One by One and didn't want a repeat of circumstances. Joking with Kerrang! Magazine, Dave and the guys put it this way. We've always wound up recording every one of our albums at least twice because we fuck it up the first time. Usually because we're not ready to go into the studio. So we basically thought we'd make the new record in our own studio and save $1 million, of course. You'll never know if this isn't the first version because it's our studio, so we can just pretend. Lucky for the Foo Fighters, the heartbreaking and heavy lead single, Best of You, was not one of their last-minute additions to the album. The song in its earliest form was actually conceived by Dave Grohl in his garage after coming off the campaign trail in support of Democratic presidential nominee John Kerry. Kerry had been using Times Like These, with the blessing of the Foos, on the campaign trail, and Grohl, a staunch Democratic Party supporter, joined Kerry in a bid to play some songs and add some star power to the campaign to finally unseat incumbent George W. Bush. As we all know by now, of course, that didn't happen, and Bush won his second term in office. Grohl explained to MTV that his time with the Kerry campaign inspired him to open his mind up to writing a song about broad themes of adversity, noting, Best of You is a song of resistance. It's a song about the refusal to be taken advantage of by something that's bigger than you, or someone you're in love with. It's the fight in the face of adversity. I didn't really think of an interesting melody, I just wanted to scream the whole way through. And the first few times we rehearsed it, I thought, there's no way I'll be able to play this live. There's blood in my throat. But now it's great. It's a release. When you go out and sing words from the heart, you scream twice as hard. Perhaps it was that supposed lack of melody that almost prevented Best of You from seeing the light of day. In an interview with NME, the band admitted they didn't see much in the song at first, until their manager convinced them otherwise.
I went on the campaign trail with Senator John Kerry when he was running for president a long time ago. And I wrote the lyrics after coming home from that. And then we recorded it and we shelved it. Yeah. We didn't think it was any good. That was something Dave had done a demo, pretty much a music demo, not without words, and then we sat and we fiddled with the music for a bit and then did it really early on in the making of that record, In Your Honor. And our manager came to listen to stuff and he's like, where's that song that says the best of you 100 times? Just pound it into their head. I was like, oh, that? Really? Is that any? But yeah, I remember thinking, oh my God. And I didn't really think, I wasn't really sure people were going to like it. I think maybe the songs that we like the least are usually the ones people like the most.
With the backing of their manager, Best of You dropped on May 30th, 2005, just 2 weeks before In Your Honor would hit shelves in June. The song would quickly become a platinum and gold-selling #1 hit at rock radio in the US and Canada, topping the Billboard Alternative Airplay and mainstream rock charts. Not only impacting the world of rock music, Best of You spent 21 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, peaking at a respectable number 18, the highest of any Foo Fighters song in the band's now nearly 30-year career. The hard-rocking song is not only one that hits you over the head sonically, but visually as well. Directed by veteran director Mark Pellington, who had worked with the likes of Pearl Jam, Bruce Springsteen, and Kings of Leon, the bleakness of the music video was inspired by the death of his wife only months prior to filming. The iconic first 40-plus seconds of the video simply picture Dave Grohl's face in an extreme close-up with a microphone as the song begins almost like a sudden surprise. From there, band footage atop an abandoned hospital is spliced with blink and you'll miss it clips that are meant to represent pain, sadness, and anger. The powerful clips include such things as a crying baby, a nuclear explosion, an angry wolf, a car crash, and graffitied walls, which include the phrases "help me," "pain feels good," and "they all died in the fire I started." Seriously powerful and bleak. If you've never seen the full video, stop what you're doing and check it out. I'll wait here for you. It wasn't all doom and gloom with the Best of You music video, however, as just like with Nickelback's infamous hit Photograph, Best of You was given the meme treatment by some digital mischief makers. The meme, paying homage to the infamous Rickroll trend, was started when a YouTuber named You Got Dave Grohl, get it, uploaded what appeared at first to be the standard Best of You music video in early 2008, with one surreal caveat. As soon as Grohl begins his first refrain of his the best battle cry, he quite simply never stops. The video actually runs for the same runtime as the authentic video, which means, I kid you not, it's just over 4 minutes of Dave screaming, "The best!" on loop. Millions of views later, The Best transformed itself into various re-uploads, images, and even text spam for trolls in the know. There's even a maddening 10-hour version, if that's your thing. As loving of a tribute as The Best meme was, it actually isn't the wildest tale involving The Best of You. No, way back in 2007, a few years after the infamous Nipplegate incident that we covered in our Justin Timberlake episode in Season 3, the NFL managed to secure the legendary Prince for their halftime show. Over 140 million television viewers tuned in to see just what Prince would come up with as a storm raged across Miami, Florida. Beginning with a cover of Queen's We Will Rock You, Prince played a medley of his own hits, along with some epic covers of All Along the Watchtower and Proud Mary, as the rain poured down from above when suddenly Prince changed tone, soloing into the most brilliant and Princified version of Best of You, before seamlessly transitioning to his iconic Purple Rain under the fall of what looked like literal purple rain. Grohl revealed in 2020 on his True Stories Instagram account that while this wasn't a surprise to him, he had been told a few days earlier by his manager, he was absolutely bewildered at the thought of it all, saying, "Wait, why? Why on earth would this living phenomenon waste even a second playing a song I wrote while sitting on the floor of my garage, leaning against an old refrigerator full of frozen burritos? This makes no sense." Grohl went on to admit he actually missed the performance live, as it didn't fully register as something that could even be true until strangers started literally approaching him on the street to talk to him about it. To this day, Dave Grohl lists Prince's cover of the song as his proudest musical achievement and the greatest compliment of his life. On the topic of achievements, Best of You is a bit of a unicorn for the Foo Fighters because despite its commercial and cultural success, it was shut out of winning any of its Grammy nominations, losing out to the likes of U2 for Best Rock Song and Best Rock Performance, making the first time the Foos hadn't picked up a Grammy for their work since 1997. I hope you're proud of yourself, Bono. Don't worry too much though, the band quickly snapped their losing streak in 2008 with multiple wins for 07's Echoes, Silence, Patience and Grace. Now a staple of their headlining stage show, Best of You has truly become one of the signature rock songs of the 21st century. It should come as no surprise that a song with such a weird and wacky aura made headlines as recently as late 2023, when a flame red-haired Shania Twain joined the Foos on stage for an unexpected duet of the song at their Austin City Limits Festival performance. I just can't believe it wasn't the 10-hour meme version. I would have paid to see that. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of the Foo Fighters' Best of You on Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.
Dive into the behind-the-scenes world of your favorite artists' interviews with us, Shannon Burns, producer Jess, and the entire iHeartRadio team on The Filter podcast. Grab your headphones. New episodes land every week wherever you get your podcasts.